Well, hello, family. I'd like to invite you to take a journey with me. A trip I took this weekend with the Cornish sisters and some of the queens from the Washington, D.C. Cameo Club. And there were a lot of other celebrities on the trip with us. But I'd like to just let you know that I don't own any credits to any of the pictures that you're going to see in the slides. Didn't draw anything myself. Hopefully, I was able to give you the artist's name in the pictures, but all of the items are part of the National Park Service, United States Department of Interior, National Historical Parks of Maryland. So we're going to take a journey on the path of Harriet Tubman. So this is her journey and a day in remembrance of Harriet Tubman. So, for many of us, we've heard the story about Harriet Tubman being hit in the head with a hard object while she was in the general store, right? Well, some say that she was hit in the head with that object because she refused to help stop a someone that was running away. And then some say that it was an accident. Either rate, it caused her grave head damage, and she started to, from the blow to her head, she would have convulsions and seizures. But I have to say that God works in mysterious ways because during that time of having the convulsions, the stories tell us that Harriet said those were her closest times to God, that she would actually see visions or dreams. And that's what would keep her safe on her journey. Let's go to our next slide. This is an actual landmark of the general store as it is a historic building, so it's being preserved. And you can see the land nearby as well, where Harriet used these waterways for her escape, her personal escape, the night that she decided to run away. Here's one of the other ones. And as you can see, or as we will know for ourselves, as a young lady traveling by herself, she actually left her husband at this time. She had gotten married, taken on his name, so she changed her name. I don't know if it was so much to save her identity or and her family, but she left because she decided she didn't want to have any children that would not be able to be free. You see, her husband was a free man, so she decided to depart and on foot and again through these waterways and this marshy land by herself. Bravery, I tell you. You know, one of the sayings, I want to read a poem to you here because let me advance my slide before we go into her travels. And it reads, Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman didn't take no stuff, wasn't scared of nothing neither, didn't come into this world to be no slave, and wasn't going to stay one either. Farewell, she sang to her friends one night. She was mighty sad to leave 'em, but she ran away that dark, hot night. Ran looking for her freedom. She ran into the woods and ran through the woods with the slave catchers right behind her, and she kept on going till she got to the north, where those men, those mean men, couldn't find her. 19 times she went back south to get 300 others. She ran for her freedom 19 times to save black sisters and brothers. Harriet Tubman didn't take no stuff, wasn't scared of nothing neither, didn't come in this world to be no slave, and didn't stay one neither, and didn't stay one neither. So let's look at it. The 32 Underground Railroad journeys on Delmarva, Harriet Tubman's travels. I'm not going to go through all of her travels, but just going to share some of the findings that we embarked upon during our travels on our visit to her birthplace. So we'll see in this picture that Harriet Tubman went back one day, and she went back and helped a free man find his family. So even though she was determined she was going to set her family free, she did not just stop there. So I'm going to read this. It says Harriet risked everything to rescue her family. Throughout the 1850s, she returned at least a dozen times to liberate about 70 family and friends. She was never caught. While in Philadelphia, Harriet heard that her 25-year-old niece, Keisha Jolly Bowling, and Keisha's son, James, and baby were going to be auctioned in that December in 1850. Tubman and Keisha's husband, John Bowling, a free man, used maritime contacts to devise a scheme to rescue his family. At the auction, John had the winning bid. Can you imagine? He outbid everybody for his family. Okay, so he had the winning bid. The Bawleys escaped before money was exchanged. After a difficult winter sail up the Chesapeake, Tubman met them in Baltimore. She secreted she secreted them to Philadelphia and on to Canada. The following year, Tubman sent word to her husband, John, also a free black man, to prepare to join her in the North. She arrived in Dorchester County with clothes she purchased for him for their new life together. Tubman discovered that John had remarried and he wanted to stay back. Can you imagine the heartbreak? She risked her life to go all the way back for her one true love. And he had given up. They say he said he thought she was dead. Devastated and angry, Tubman resolved if John could do without her, she could do without him. She dropped him out of her heart, not one to waste a trip. Tubman adopted and brought others with her to Philadelphia instead. She said, I wasn't going to waste this journey. I just risked my life on this mission. And this man don't want to come with me? He forgot all about me and got married? He didn't think I was going to make it back. He didn't have any faith. Oh, ye of little faith. She went and got some more families. It took a decade of repeated journeys to liberate her family. After she rescued her parents in 1857, only her sister Rachel remained. Can you imagine? She even found her sister because the storyline tells us that her sister was auctioned off when she was a small child. She went and found her sister. After she rescued her parents in 1857, only her sister Rachel remained. Each time Tubman returned, Rachel would not leave her children who lived on different farms. So she went back to get her sister, but found out her sister had children. Now she had to try to find her sister's children. Tragically, Rachel died in slavery, and her children remained enslaved by the Broaddus's, the same property owners, for lack of other words. I know we're supposed to now not say we're not supposed to say we were slaves and not supposed to say plantation, but for the sake of this, I'm going to find it hard to try to work around those words, okay? So Rachel refused to leave the plantation because she wanted to take her children with her. They had to try to find her children. And as Harriet kept coming back, and she was trying to find Rachel's children, unfortunately, Rachel died. And Harriet couldn't identify her children. She didn't know them. So The storyline tells us that her nieces and nephews remained slaves. She went back and got her mom and dad. Yes, she went back and got her mom and dad. She moved her mom and dad, so they tell us, to Canada, where they wouldn't have to worry about being slaves. Wow. So, what was it, in 1857? Tubman settled into the growing refugee community in St. Catharines, Ontario. She lectured widely about the horror of slavery to audience throughout New England, raising money to support herself and her parents. In 1858, Tubman met with the legendary John Brown, who called her the General Tubman. She committed herself to helping him plan his raid on Harper's Ferry in Virginia, but her illness kept her from joining him. So she went back and got her parents and the family that she could and got them out of harm's way, all the way to Canada. These are some names of some of the other individuals that we know about as far as history can tell us that she saved as well. And it goes back from 1850 all the way to 1856. And you see in the 1850s, they don't really show us a lot of names. But in 1856, they actually give us the names. So who knows? You may just find some of your relatives on that list. In 1859, Harriet purchased a home from, would you know it, the Secretary of State of President Lincoln's, Mr. William Henry Stewart, in Auburn, New York. So she's coming back down from Canada. And in 1869, she finally remarried. She married Nelson Davis, who was a veteran. And through her struggles, her home remained open anyone, to anyone in need. The love of her family and friends, her deep faith in women's rights and humanitarian work remained the focus of her life for the rest of her life. She became a speaker for humanitarian rights as well as for suffrage, women's suffrage. She really got involved with women's suffrage and humanitarian rights because she fought in the war, not just as a nurse. She actually fought in the war as a soldier. And at the end of her term, she was denied her pension. She eventually received her widow's pension for her husband before she received her own from the Civil War and as a nurse. You know, they weren't going to pay her as a soldier back then, but they did owe her for being a nurse. And one of her proudest achievements was the opening of the Harriet Tubman Home for the Aged. And even though she opened this home for the aged, she never stopped. She never stopped. And she went back and started speaking for the women's suffrage movement, because she too was not given the right to vote, even after she had fought for her country and even after she had freed so many slaves. Unfortunately, Harriet later died at the age of 91. She lived until the 1900s, and she died of pneumonia at her home in New York. Her life continues to be symbolic to all of us as I'm sharing this story now. Her life continues to give us hope for the freedom that we're still fighting for today. The injustices remain, and she remains an inspiration to us all. So, this next picture, I want you to think about that poem that I read. It said, she didn't take no stuff. You see somebody giving you a handout, take it. It may just open up some doors. I'm not going to say don't pray on it first, because as she said, she was in close contact with God through her visions and her dreams, and God led the way. So she was a God-fearing woman. And when somebody gives you a handout and God tells you to go ahead, don't you hesitate. Take that hand right there. Take her hand and do what God tells you to do. Take the journey. We still have a lot of evangelizing